Hi there, my name is Steve Gerhardt, and this is the Unagi Observer. Thank you so much for stopping by this week and watching. As you know, this channel talks a lot about different types of fandoms, with anime in particular, and this week is going to be about anime. But before I get into that, let me just kind of quickly touch back on what we talked about last week, which was about creating a new dungeon. And I asked you guys if you would like to put in some ideas of like low-level monsters for low-level characters. We're talking like levels 1 to 3. If you got any ideas and things like that of that nature to put into this dungeon, or what type of dungeon it's going to be, if you don't know, if you haven't seen the video, please take a look at it. Let me know down below what you think, and we'll go on from there. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about a specific anime that came out in the early 90s, which was actually very early 90s, 1991, and it is called Roujin Z. So let's get into it. Roujin Z, or Old Man Z. So basically, this anime movie is a cyberpunk comedy, if I had to give it a genre. It's not over-the-top comedy. There are funny things to it. It does delve into cyberpunk issues, but overall, it's a pretty solid movie. The plot, let's talk about the plot first, and that is basically, so this young nurse, Haruko, is taking care of this invalid old man. He's on his way out, right? He's on his way to die, and she takes care of him. She works in a hospital with 3 other friends, and basically their jobs are as orderlies and nurses and things like that. So they do the grunt work jobs, and they are studying to be nurses and doctors. And one of the interesting things about this movie is that it actually gives you a pretty good look into like healthcare in terms of how student hospitals work and how like people move forward in the hospitals. And it's kind of interesting. It's just kind of a side note. So Haruko is one of these student nurses, and so not only does she do her job and she's with her friends on the geriatric ward, but she also takes care of this guy that lives in her building. And she has a soft spot for this guy for a specific reason that comes on later, and I don't want to spoil that. So he has this system where he can call on her to help him because he really is bedridden. He can't really do much for himself. And like I said, he's kind of on his way out. So the movie starts with him calling her away from work so that she can come and take care of him, which is, of course, causes problems with her, but she doesn't mind it because this is kind of what she wants to do. And as she's taking care of this guy, a corporation comes in and under the auspices of the Department of Well-Being or medical well-being. I forget what it's called in the movie, but basically there's this big guy who's like definitely a PR person, and he's coming in and he goes, we have to find a volunteer for their new piece of equipment that they're going to roll out for the Japanese public. And so fast forward, they decide that they're going to volunteer Old Man Z. So you never really, you get his name towards the end, but at first they call him Z because he's just really an experiment. So basically the thing that they're going to experiment on him is basically a bed, a hospital bed, a hospice bed, if you will, that takes care of all the needs. Like practically does away with the idea of nurses, and can anticipate and function of taking care of the elderly. And so they're making this bed to make profits, of course. And this bed is wonderful because it feeds, it cleans, it takes care of poop, right? that is actually discussed. And so, but instead of giving these people dignity, it kind of dehumanizes them. So this poor old man is stuck in this thing, and they won't let him out because he's been volunteered. And Haruko is trying to, get him out of it and get him, in a more, she knows he's dying, but she wants him to die in a dignified manner. So what happens then is that this is where we cross into the cyberpunk. Somehow, Old Man Z connects to his bed. So he's actually able on some level to control the bed. So the bed becomes like a mecha almost. And so he starts moving around, and Haruko and her friends find out about this, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. The other, the people in charge of this project come in. They're like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And then you have that little shady technician, right? That guy with the glasses and thin eyes and very angular chin, and you're just like, "Oh, there's the bad guy." Yep, sure enough, he's the bad guy. So basically, what has happened is that he's actually working with the military, and he's not exactly military, but he's working with them. And he's trying to get his corporation a contract to build basically a new mechanized thing that can operate on its own. And so they're using the auspices of this bed to achieve that effect. So they shut it down, and then Haruko, who's worried about her friend, her elderly friend, and her friends who are worried about her, they're conspired to figure out how they can get him at least out of the bed, right? Just get him out of the bed and get him into the geriatric ward where he can, die with dignity and in peace. Nothing goes right, of course. And he's still stuck in the bed, but then suddenly his dead wife's voice comes around, and he kind of goes, "Oh, I want to go to the sea with my wife and, die there." Chaos ensues, and that's the rest of the movie. It's basically this one big traveling circus of destruction and mayhem. And so that's basically the plot of the story. And just to give you an idea, the themes that they deal with heavily in this movie is, keep in mind this is 1991, how the medical community wants to treat the elderly. Because there's a big deal with Japan in respecting your elders and things of that nature. So there's this theme of, does technology help us or hinder us in that goal of trying to respect the wishes of the elderly? Because that's really important. The other theme that comes into play here is, of course, the evil military corporation that are trying to get things for the contracts to do war things to make money, right? War profiteering. And it's kind of interesting because, it's not only just that, but it's kind of a jab at the time towards the right in Japan, and I say capital RIGHT, not just right in terms of conservatives, but that's an actual party name, where they want to remilitarize Japan. And so this movie is kind of poking fun or paying attention to that idea that this is not a good thing. So those are kind of the major themes that they go throughout the movie. The animation is kind of interesting. It's good, it's solid, and there's parts of it where it's just like, wow, okay? And it really pops out, and in particular movements, and you're gonna watch this and go, wow, this kind of reminds me of Akira a little bit. And it should. Because Otomo, who was the director and screenwriter for Akira, wrote the screenplay for Roujin Z. As a matter of fact, let me read you off the list that I was surprised I didn't know about this. Let me read you the list of the people who are involved with Roujin Z. Let me just find it here real quick. So I'm just going to read this right off the internet here. So, Otomo is the one who wrote the script, right? Let's see here. Satoshi Kon is involved as an animator. Otomo and Mitsuo Iso did mechanical designs. Character designs were by Hisashi Eguchi, who is known for Stop and Hibari-kun. It was directed by Hiroyuki Kirabuko, I hope I'm saying that right, who directed the A Tale of Two Robots segments in Robot Carnival. So you get the idea that this is like a lot of heavy hitters are involved with this thing. And it really does work out. I mean, it does. It's a solid, fun romp. It just kind of goes through just this wonderful little story, and it's just action. Boom, 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 boom. There's funniness. There's comedy in there. There's kind of off-color comedy a little bit. Remember, this is 1991, so things are going to be a little. So just keep that in mind. So. Am I telling you to watch this movie? Absolutely, you should watch this movie. This is a really, really good movie. It's well made, and it's a really, really unique story. It's not something you're going to find everywhere. And like I said, the animation is solid, and then there are moments where it's just like, oh my gosh, really? And Otomo just kind of shines out in the writing of this. So yeah, You can see this. I'm not sure if it's on Retro Anime, but I can tell you that it is, if you have Roku, it is on Manga TV, which is a free Roku anime service. They have a limited amount of stuff that they have on there, but the stuff they have on there is surprisingly good. So, I would entreat you to do that. But yeah, watch this movie, Roujin Z or Old Man Z. For a long time, it did not come to the United States, and there were problems when it did come to the United States of getting it shown around and getting it production, distribution, and stuff like that for some weird reason. The other thing I would tell you the reason why to watch this is to give you an example of, and I didn't realize this until a few minutes before I started filming this, was like, oh, so that's what a budget does for you. So, a lot of what you see in Roujin Z is very, in terms of style, character design, mecha design, how they move, the action, how things move, is, like I said, very reminiscent of Akira. Very much so. As a matter of fact, it's kind of easy to go, is this part of the Akira universe? So, but one of the things is that, as we know about Akira, Akira had an amazing budget behind it, where they created new colors to do the movie, right? So if you look at Akira with the budget that it has, a nice huge animation budget, and then you look at Roujin Z, which did not have the same level of budgetary fitness, for want of a better word, it shows. It definitely shows. So it's kind of unique to see of how important a good budget is for an anime movie. I feel that if Roujin Z had the budget that Akira had, I think it'd probably be a little bit more popular than it is today. So, okay, so that's Roujin Z, Old Man Z. Go out, watch it, enjoy it for what it is, and yeah, 2 thumbs up. Good stuff.